Hello, and welcome back to the third episode of Onfleet's Cannabis series for 2022. I'm Steven, and I'm here with Jeremy Johnson, the Business Development Manager at Dispense. Jeremy, thanks for coming on. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me, Steven. It's a beautiful sunny day in Michigan here, even though it's only about 30 degrees. But other than that, everything's good here.
Is that normal for late April up where you live?
It can be. It's a little dramatic right now. It's not unnormal, but we're ready for above 50. That's for sure.
Yeah, I hear that. Well, okay, so we want to get into the nuts and bolts of Dispense, what you guys are doing, and your partnership with Onfleet. But first, could you just tell me a little bit about yourself and like how you got into this industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've actually been in the cannabis industry here in Michigan since we legalized in 2008. Michigan was one of the early legal states. We only legalized in the sense that we had a caregiver program. So in 2008, I was 18 years old and got a medical card for cannabis and became a caregiver pretty early on. And I continued in that aspect of the industry until Michigan voted to go recreational in 2018. In 2018, I didn't quite have enough backing to start my own dispensary or my own grow on the recreational side, but I had purchased a building that qualified for a recreational dispensary in my hometown, and so I partnered with a local retailer that was able to get a license, and we opened a few stores in the Upper Peninsula. And I quickly saw a need. The store started open around 2019. I quickly saw a need for digital marketing, and that was my digital marketing, website development, and mobile apps was my profession. I was a caregiver as a hobby mostly, but my profession and background was in website and mobile app development. And so when I saw a need for that in the cannabis space, I thought, what a great opportunity to combine my professional experience with my passion and hobby that I like to do with cannabis. So I built out the second iteration of a website for a local retailer, and we were ready to launch just in time for March of 2020, which was the start of the pandemic, which worked out really well. Everything moved online. In Michigan, cannabis was declared essential, and we were doing almost 90% of our orders through our online system. And that was when I really realized how much of an opportunity there was in cannabis and e-commerce. And that was kind of the start of this journey for me.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I mean, that's come up in every interview that we've done so far. It's just what a watershed moment the pandemic was. And well, it came at an interesting time for this industry, I guess. So can you tell us a little bit more about Dispense? What is the core of your business? What is your mission there?
Yeah. So the core of Dispense is to power online menus and online transactions for cannabis retailers. And that is something that we take I wouldn't say it's a unique approach to it, but we take a different approach than most of our competitors in the industry. Most online and e-commerce based businesses in cannabis right now are what I call marketplace solutions or hybrid marketplace solutions. And it really goes back to Weed Maps, the original cannabis marketplace. There is this need for a cannabis marketplace or destination on the internet because Google wouldn't allow dispensaries back in 2004, 2005, all the way until very recently, that Google started to allow dispensaries on their platform. And so a lot of the e-commerce platforms you see are kind of based on this idea of a marketplace where you might have conflicting interest, because those marketplaces also sell and market cannabis products. To the contrary, Dispense is simply B2B software that exists solely to power the e-commerce for retailers. So we don't have any customer-facing aspect of our business. We don't have. If you go to dispenseapp.com, It's just a website marketing our product. We're not selling or marketing cannabis products itself. And that's really the big difference between us and some of the players that people are more used to hearing about.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask about that. I mean, can you describe a little bit more like what that difference means for your business model and like what does that maybe allow you to do that others don't?
Yeah, I think for the retailers, the biggest thing about that is that you own your data 100% when you use a dedicated platform. And I really like to compare it to other industries that people are familiar with. A go-to example is going to be like Amazon versus Shopify. If you're a typical brick and mortar retailer and you list your products on Amazon, you might get a ton of exposure to new potential clients, but then you take the risk of sharing all of that data with a marketplace in Amazon. And we've seen it happen. There's been some big news stories out there where Amazon then takes those highest selling products and turns them into their own line. Everybody knows Amazon Basics. All of those things that Amazon now produces themselves came from data and insights of their third party retailers and things that sold well on the platform beforehand. So that's really like where our difference is we have no marketplace. We're not going to end up marketing cannabis. We're not going to end up selling cannabis. And so there's no incentive for us to do goofy things with your data. You own your data 100%. And then on top of it, we're also building out the tools to leverage your data. So one of the most powerful things that we have been working on recently is being able to drive traffic to retailers' websites through brand and product SEO. A great example there is right now, if you're using one of the marketplace solutions, they typically are embedded on your website via an iframe. And with that iframe, you get zero SEO data. And what I mean by that is when you Google something like your favorite strain or your favorite brand of cannabis, for me, I love Jeter pre-rolls. They're only available in California and Arizona right now. They're coming to Michigan very soon, which I'm incredibly excited about.
Nice.
But when they do come to Michigan, if I was to Google, Jeter pre-rolls near me, where do I find those? Most likely the first results are going to be Weed Maps, Leafly, Dutchy, Jane. They're not actually going to be a dispensary that carries those pre-rolls. So that customer journey takes a few extra clicks, where if you are using our software and you're a dispensary or retailer powering your menu with Dispense, you can rank right on the first page of Google for any brand or product that you carry. And that's an incredibly powerful tool that can drive hundreds, if not thousands of users to your website every day or every week.
Yeah, and so that's one interesting service. I'm curious if you could talk a little more about the other services that you guys provide, and what is your role in that also as a business development?
Yeah, I'll start with my role. My role is on the business development side, and I mostly work with our partners, from our POS partners to other ancillary software partners like Onfleet, and even website development and digital marketing partners. My background is in web development and digital marketing and working in agencies. So for me, that was kind of a natural fit. Once I learned the retail side and learned where the opportunities were, it made sense to be in a position, in a role where I could work with software companies that I was already familiar with, and help them find ways to help their clients better. So when we talk about other services, one part of my job that I love working on is with web developers and digital marketers. Previous to services like Dispense, web developers didn't have a whole lot of recurring revenue options in the cannabis world. They would build a website for a client, embed an iframe menu on it, and that would be it. And they would have to move on to a new client. And that's mostly due to a lack of infrastructure. Well, I guess let me start over there. That's mostly due to just like inherently lacking technology. You can't really track iframes very well. Google is not able to like follow along with the customer journey there. And you can't really optimize them either. You inherently have no control over them. You only get what control the hosting company provides. And so as a web developer, digital marketer, you're just very limited in what value you can actually provide for your clients. So when I go to web developers or digital marketers and I show them our product and I show them what kind of data they can glean from it, their eyes light up immediately and they say, this is what we've been waiting for. Because that's an opportunity where they can then show value to their clients, create additional revenue streams, and create longer lasting relationships with these retailers.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, what have you heard from some clients, but, I think you pretty much answered it there.
Yeah, cool.
Well, so yeah, I guess could you get a little more into, like, what that data might be and, like, how, it can be put to use?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a couple key examples I like to go with. We already talked about the SEO example and the end consumer searching for their favorite brands or products. And if you look at any industry level data, all of the hot predictions for 2022 and going forward are how important those brands are going to be. So if as a retailer, if you're not focusing on how to be found for certain brands, there's a big opportunity that you could be missing out on there. But other than that, it's really, for us, it's really about exposing all of the data. A great example that I play off of a lot of times is before joining Dispense, I worked on the retail side and I implemented on the loyalty side. We worked with a company called Alpine IQ, who is a great loyalty and marketing platform in the cannabis space. And they had recently released a feature where you could remarket to current customers with abandoned carts, which is a great feature. You're trying to capture that revenue that you might miss out on otherwise. But Alpine IQ was not being passed any additional information from the menu providers in terms of what was actually in that cart. So I didn't know the order total of that cart. I didn't know what products were in that cart.
Mhm.
And I didn't know what brands were in that cart, which put me at a severe disadvantage. I was basically just sending out coupons that said, "Hey, you left something in your cart. Here's $20 off." And so with Dispense, we expose all that information. We tell you the value of that cart. We tell you what brands are in that cart. We tell you exactly what products are in that cart. And you can start to see how powerful that tool gets when you can really hone in and then even work on relationships with your vendors. If you start to notice that you have one specific brand that just keeps popping up as abandoned in the cart, it's like, well, hey, let's reach out to that vendor. Let's try to identify what's going on here and how we can actually close these deals.
Yeah, okay, very interesting. I'm curious, like, I don't quite know how to phrase this because I'm not really an expert in the industry, but like you talk about people searching for specific brands and dispensaries wanting to be able to market specific brands. I'm curious, like how the sort of brand landscape looks because I mean, with weed there has always been sort of like famous strains,
Yeah.
but the companies that are cropping up, that pun was not intentional if it was one. But the companies that are cropping up, I guess, are relatively newer. Like, what are you noticing from customers in terms of like brand loyalty and like identifying brands?
Yeah, I think, I'm in Michigan and that's where most of my experience is. And it's a really interesting place to be right now because we've been recreationally legal for about 4 years and the supply is finally catching up with demand.
Hmm.
And previous to that, it used to just be that you could open up a retail store and just sell weed without even trying. People
Yeah,
people people wanted it, the demand wasn't there, and if you had it, it would move.
right.
But now that supply has finally caught up, you're having to, especially on the brand side, you're having to differentiate what you're doing. And the thing that I've noticed the most is it really comes down to consistency and quality. If you can build a brand around consistency and quality, you're going to have a lot more success than other brands that are just getting whatever the lowest price flower can be and making pre-rolls out of that. And I think for brands, it's really in the value add, right? You have to, it's convenience for consumers. I've been involved in cannabis for a long time, but I never learned, I still can't roll my own joints. It's just something I never bothered to learn how to do. And so for me, pre-rolls are amazing. I love being able to go into a store and buy a selection of pre-rolls and taste each different one and try them out. But there's some out there that, those pre-rolls are rolled from shake that isn't as fresh. So it's really dry when it burns,
Hmm,
or the pre-rolls aren't rolled super tight. So you get weird burning patterns and they just don't smoke very well.
hmm.
And that's where for me personally, I see a ton of opportunity as a brand. If you can get a product, a pre-roll that burns right every time, tastes delicious, isn't super dried out, like, and you come to rely on that consistency and quality, you're going to get a lot of customers that way.
Yeah, that's a very interesting insight. Not all pre-rolls are created equal.
No, definitely not.
Well, so I want to talk about like the delivery aspect of what you guys do and how you interact with Onfleet. Well, what is the nature of your partnership? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So we again we focus solely on e-commerce, and with delivery,
Mhm.
e-commerce is a big part of that. Customer is sitting at home and decides they want a certain product. Again, whether it's a brand or a specific strain, they hop on Google and they type that in, or they type in cannabis delivery near me, and they're going to find, let's say they find one of the dispensaries that we power. They'll complete that transaction on a website that we're powering the menu aspect of it. In certain states, you can't do delivery if you're a retailer. There has to be a third party retailer.
Mm.
A great example of that is Massachusetts. We power a good amount of cannabis delivery licenses in the state of Massachusetts because they have to be separate from retail. And then with Onfleet, Onfleet handles the last mile logistics. So once you place that order, we send out a text message and a QR code that says, "Thank you for your order. Here's the confirmation," all those kinds of things. And then Onfleet kind of takes over from there. Onfleet, the order moves into Onfleet, a driver is assigned. The driver can then message the customer, and if there's any questions about where they're located, they can handle that all in Onfleet. And then when that delivery is completed, it's closed out in Onfleet. That automatically closes it out in our system, and then it's processed in the POS system as well.
Okay, gotcha. Sorry, I'm just checking to see if there's anything else that I need to cover here. I don't know. Is there more that you want to cover, or are there any aspects of your business that you would like to discuss we haven't gotten to yet?
Yeah, well, I think one thing that's important to note with our partnership with Onfleet is that Onfleet works in a very similar way that we do with our retailers. Onfleet is a strictly B2B company, and they don't have their own consumer facing marketplaces either. A lot of these other cannabis delivery software platforms that we see popping up that handle last mile logistics, they're actually selling and marketing cannabis themselves. So when we look at like a Grass Door or an Ease, those are companies that have built the same technology that Onfleet is built, but they're actually completing those orders and selling and marketing. And so, for those customers that value their data, value their privacy, and value that relationship with the customers, when you use a tech stack like Dispense and Onfleet, you get to retain all of that as opposed to sharing all that with another platform that might then go and remarket your customers to a different dispensary because they might have a cheaper product or they might be running a deal that week. And so for us, the Onfleet partnership really made sense, not only from a technology standpoint in enabling delivery, but from a core conceptual standpoint where
Mhm.
we believe in each other's business practices.
Yeah. Okay. That's very cool. I'm glad you explained that. Well, yeah, I mean, thank you for coming and answer all these questions. The last one that I've been asking is just, what are you excited about right now? I mean, like, what's on the horizon for you guys at Dispense, or just in this space that you're excited about?
Yeah, for dispense, I would say that technology in cannabis is so far behind most other industries,
Yeah.
and so I'm excited for people to take it up a notch and do really cool things on the tech side, especially in the e-commerce world. I think we're going to start to see a lot of people creating more unique and custom e-commerce experiences, and I can't wait to see what happens there. But then, personally, in cannabis in general, I think the thing that I'm most excited about is cannabis drinks.
Mm.
Low THC, low dose, session style drinks the same way you could drink a 3% beer and have four, well, have a couple of them, right?
Yeah.
I can't wait until I can go out and have maybe three cannabis drinks and not feel like I have to go take a 5 hour nap.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that actually. That is an absolutely lovely thought. I hope we get there sooner rather than later.
Yeah, we just got our first consumption lounge in the state of Michigan approved. You still can't buy anything there. You can bring products in. Michigan's a little bit behind on the cannabis drinks as well, but we're slowly getting there. So it's something that you can maybe do in other states at the moment, but for me and where I live, we're just getting around to it. So that's what I'm looking forward to the most as the industry progresses here.
Yeah. Well. All right. I mean, hopefully in a couple years, maybe we can record this in person and crack open some cold cannabis beverages as we do it. But thanks so much, Jeremy, for coming on. And yeah, I guess just before we leave, if anyone wants to get in touch with you or just learn more about Dispense, where should they head?
Yeah, dispenseapp.com is our website. You can go on there and fill out the learn more form, or my personal work email is just jeremy@dispenseapp.com. I'm also on LinkedIn all the time. My girlfriend hates it, but it's very easy to get a hold of me on LinkedIn.